Hey there, this is Dr. Evan. Oh, sorry, just working on my balance. Do you see people using things like this to work on balance with their clients? Just get rid of it. Hey there, this is Dr. Evan Osar. Thanks so much for joining us in this edition of Facebook Live. Thank you for being part of our community and allowing us to be part of your community and helping to bring real information to your clients. I should say information that will actually help them versus gimmicky things like that. Now, we're discussing on this series of integrative movement insider the training the fundamental movement patterns from an integrative movement system perspective. So today we're talking about posture, balance, and walking because they're a sort of collective group of entities that help to maintain the most fundamental thing we do besides breathing, and that's walking. And we know that walking is the ability to walk and actually walk at a fast speed is directly linked to longevity. So for training older adults, preventing falls, not preventing them, you can't prevent them, but strategies to help improve and reduce the number of falls in our clients is related to postural control, is related to how well your clients are going to walk. We've been discussing several things about balance, posture, walking. In the last edition, we talked about rotation, how our pushing and pulling patterns actually help us improve rotation, spinal rotation, trunk rotation, rotation of the thorax independent of the pelvis and hip complex is a key to walking. Today, we'll specifically discuss posture in part 2 of this, I should say posture and balance. And in part 2 of this, we'll discuss more specifics around walking. One of the reasons we don't use things like balance pads until our clients are ready for them, or especially the upside down dome for the majority of our clients, especially older clients, is because many of our clients do not do a great job of balancing on a flat surface. So if they don't balance well on a flat surface, they're not going to have a great strategy for balancing on something that's so labile or uneven, unbalanced, or where they have incoordination on an apparatus like that. So even though this is not a great overall assessment of one's balance, it shows us the ability of our clients to maintain their center of mass over their base of support, which is a part of balance, which is a part of postural control. So we use the single leg stance as one of our assessments. How well do you load onto one leg? How well do you control your shifting of center of mass onto one leg? So we'll have them stand for one leg or on one leg for 5-10 seconds, see what they can do. We may even have them rotate their head because that will change your visual system. You can see I'm getting a little unbalanced when I change my visual system as well as my vestibular system, but I can easily catch it. So you can start to play with that if your client is very stable when they're on single leg stance. Also watch how they shift from one side to the other. Your clients will have a more dominant side where when you watch them, what should happen is they should be able to align their rib cage over top of their pelvis, make a mild shift of their center of mass over towards their support leg. So now they're aligned with their thoracopelvic cylinder, their head and neck are aligned over top their base of support. You should not see this big shift like this. They should not be hanging like this. They should also not have their hip out like this where they're just hanging off their ligaments like this. They should be able to shift over and align thoracopelvic cylinder, head and neck over top of their base of support. And you just should see a very simple shift to their opposite side. What you'll often see is they struggle to shift, or they shift more to one side. It requires them to shift their whole torso, their thorax, over to one side to help to maintain that center of mass over top of their base of support. So that tells you there's something on that side, or it could be a contralateral issue as well. It just tells you that their control, their balance or postural control on that side isn't as effective or efficient as it is on their opposite side. So then you want to delve further as to why that is. Is it a musculoskeletal issue? Is it a joint fixation issue? Is it a muscular control issue? Is it a breathing issue? Is it a visual and or vestibular issue as well? So lots of other things to look at. Now, let's fast forward. You've already done your assessment. How do you start to help your clients train for better postural control? We've talked a lot about the fundamental movement patterns here. How do we help our clients better align their rib cage over top of their pelvis? How do we help them squat and lunge and bend? Those are all effective patterns for helping to improve balance and postural control and ultimately for walking. Because if your clients don't bend their hips well, they're probably not going to rotate their hips well because rotation is one of those patterns that they'll lose even before they lose the ability to bend. Bending is just a manifestation of the loss of rotation of the pelvis. So all those fundamental patterns we've already discussed help set up where your clients are at this point. Now, what can we help our clients do from a fundamental movement perspective to help improve postural control and balance? Obviously, like I said, you can train the visual system, train the eyes. We've talked about that here as well. We'll do that in a future edition as well. One of the patterns we love to do, let's start at the feet first. First, you want to make sure your clients have their proper footwear. If they're wearing these big, bulky shoes, they're not getting the proprioceptive feedback from the ground that they need. So many of our clients are in orthotics or these big, bulky shoes. So the first thing, just have them do some barefoot work. Even if your clients can't walk around barefoot or it's contraindicated, well, then just have them roll their foot on a ball just to get some proprioceptive awareness or awakening or some mobility of the foot from a lacrosse ball or tennis ball. Then you can have them just do some barefoot standing, just get a sense of where their center of mass is based upon their foot placement. And then if you have to put them back in their shoes, go ahead and do that. But again, we want to do this as much barefoot or in minimal shoes. I'm wearing my Xeros, Xeros. These are my favorite shoes to train in, but there's many brands of minimal type styles of shoes to train in. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into split stance position. I'm going to have my client place their hands on their pelvis. We're going to teach them how to rotate their pelvis towards their forward leg, come back, rotate away, keeping their head, their eyes, and their head forward. You're going to remove their entire thoracopelvic cylinder, rotating the entire thoracopelvic cylinder around that femoral head. Because again, research has shown in slower walking speeds, we tend to move as a unit. The thoracopelvic cylinder moves as a unit as we walk. Not exactly like a robot, it shouldn't move like that, but again, it's relatively aligned and stacked. As we walk faster, now we start to get the association of the thorax and pelvis, but beginning with your clients, just teach them how to keep their weight on one leg, split stance position, weight is primarily on the forward leg, and then they're going to rotate and then rotate back out of that position and rotate away from that side. So you're teaching the client to move their pelvis and the entire cylinder over top that femoral head. Once your client is good doing that, you may have them take a step and rotate, again, keeping the head looking forward. You may even do a medicine ball chop. So they think they're doing an exercise, but you're actually training their ability to rotate and decelerate this motion, because that's where a lot of our clients struggle. They struggle decelerating forward momentum, walking being forward momentum once your client gets more effective or walking faster. So just an easy pattern to start to train your clients. And you can always add in more resistance. So you can take something like a cable pattern. So let me grab a cable here. And you can teach your client then to start to rotate the entire thoracopelvic cylinder against resistance. Now, you don't need this. I'm not saying you need this to improve walking, but it's a great pattern for overall life, just lifting, turning, twisting, rotating, doing those motions. But it's also a great pattern to teach your client how to incorporate that rotation that you were just training against resistance. Again, not using a load that's so heavy that your client cannot still maintain that ability to rotate the thoracopelvic cylinder and then decelerate that rotation. So internal rotation of this hip here, and then external rotation going that direction. Hey, what's up? How are you? You're on Facebook Live. I'm sorry. You're on Facebook Live. You're all good. Thanks, Cynthia. Sorry about that. Next time. It's all good. No problems. It's my neighbor, Cynthia. So what we want to do is, again, teach our clients how to align and control that thoracopelvic cylinder and then rotate through their hip and then rotate away from their hip as well. So internal rotation of that hip and then external rotation of that hip as well. Great way to start training that postural control, the ability to move the thoracopelvic cylinder as a unit, and more importantly, move around that hip. So that way, when your clients are walking, they're able to start to incorporate more of that hip rotation that they need, and you stop them from doing more of this motion. This motion is frontal plane motion, and that's excessive frontal plane motion, and that's going to increase the risk of falling, and they're doing this because they lose the ability to rotate. So start with teaching your clients how to rotate the thoracopelvic cylinder and more specifically the pelvis around that femoral head. Add some resistance, add some medicine ball chops to add some variety to the pattern, to add a little bit of load, a little bit of momentum to the pattern, to also mimic some of the things they'll do in everyday life, like gardening, grabbing things, and then moving things like that. So it's a great functional pattern to do with your clients that also will help translate over to what they do. And I don't want to completely bash these things. If you want to use something like this, and you have clients that have progressed, much better to put it on the flat surface than your client can do. They can keep their foot in more of a tripod support position. And now you can do things like, your balance work, you can do throws, you can just do, holds, static holds, things like that. So now you're training a more labile surface, but your client has better ability to control themselves before you just move to that sort of surface. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you again for being part of our community and helping to educate and empower your clients and enroll more people into your programs so you can help more individuals that need, want, and will pay you for your expertise so you can help people live long, healthy lives. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you even disagree with anything, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm open to hearing what you have to say. I'm open to other perspectives as well. I'm always looking to learn as well. So thank you so much for being part of our community. Make it a great Saturday, and we'll see you next time here at Integrative Movement Insider. Take care.